It's the 2022 World Cup. It's Ecuador's players. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and today we'll be looking at Ecuador's squad for the 2022 World Cup. For those looking for a quick version of this, you can skip to near the end of the media podcast, the last 4 or 5 minutes, where we will summarize the likely starters. And just prior to that, with about 15 minutes remaining, we'll have some discussion on the squad. So that covers the main issues of the squad, how we see their overall strength and how they look going into the Cup, as well as the players and issues to look out for. So we'll put these times in the show notes, and we'll also be editing this media cast into a shorter version for those who are just looking for an overview. For those looking for a deeper dive, this is the right place to be. We go through the players to explain why we think they're candidates, and we give some information on their history and standing with the squad. So the way we do this is first by organizing the players into their designated positions. And we should note that these are a bit artificial since players don't always play in their coded positions. It's nevertheless a good way to kind of organize the discussion. And then we go through the players and share some of the data we've collected in our files. And we use that data to try to predict how likely the player is to make the team, which is based mostly on their recent participations, but a couple of other factors are taken into account too. And using that, we categorize them into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seem to be off the squad. Those are like, for example, they'll definitely make the Cup, or they are a possible candidate for reaching the Cup, like that. We also mention big players who have recently retired, and we make any note of players we know to be currently injured. So we'll also try to determine which players will be starters in the Cup and which we think will be substitutes. All right. For those following on YouTube, we'll run a very simple graphic where we list the names, and you can actually see the players' names. And but it's the same broadcast for the podcast version, so we're going to try to repeat those names a few times to help listeners familiarize themselves, so that when they are stepping onto the field for the World Cup, you have some familiarity with them. And that's as much as we can do at this point. But later, probably in November, the rosters will be published, and we'll do an update episode. So that'll essentially be going over our predictions, updating them based on any new information we gleaned from the games played to that point between now and November, and revealing which players were selected. Sometimes they also have a preliminary squad that we'll note which players made the preliminary and final squad. So keep your eye out for that. There's also a team update. And that will come out probably in early to mid-November. Okay, so we look at formations for recent games, and no, we're not there yet. We are going to look at takeaways from our previous podcast. So prior to the Copa America in 2021, we did kind of an overview of teams there. We didn't do a player podcast, so there really wasn't a lot we did specifically on the players, other than naming the kind of key players that we thought. But of course, this podcast will be much more thorough than that. One thing we did note, though, is that they are a kind of a narrow team, at least in terms of the I don't know if we noted this in the podcast, actually, but I wanted to note it before we started here. They don't have a lot of outside midfielders and wingers, so most of the players are coded as defensive midfielders or basically attacking midfielders or forwards. So to get their outside players, they usually use those players. So I wouldn't say that's quite out of position, but slightly out of position. We have a lot of players kind of playing slightly out of position. So as we go through, the players kind of keep an ear out for whether they're playing in their designated position or whether they're playing slightly outside their position. Okay, now it's time to go through the formations, and I realize I didn't prepare my graphic here, so I'll just copy what I use, although it's a bit too much information, but I'll just lean over it for our podcast listeners especially. So they played 5 Copa America games, and I think it was about 10 World Cup qualifying games, and then 3 friendlies in June. So during the Copa America, it was generally a 4-4-2 formation. So 4 defenders, 4 midfielders. So that would mean 2 outside midfielders and then 2 forwards. In game 3, it was 4-4-1-1. So that's quite similar. But for game 5, they switched to a 4-3-3, which I kind of view as their default formation. Along with a 4-4-2. So they kind of switch from a 4-3-3 to a 4-4-2. Now they do switch this up sometimes, and they used a variety of formations during their World Cup games, but primarily a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3. So you can see that 4-3-3 is a bit of a narrow formation. When it's a 4-4-2, they have to kind of put 2 kind of wingers on the outside. So those guys are generally playing a little bit out of position. Yeah, okay. And then for the friendlies, it was a 4-3-3 for 2 of them and a 4-2-3-1, which they have tried a couple of times. 4-2-3-1. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. It's not that different from a 4-4-2 because you have the two wingers again. Okay, we'll get on with it, and we'll keep that in mind during the discussion because it does affect some players' positions there. So I'm just gonna keep a copy visible. Okay, let's move on then with the squad, and we begin with the manager. And the manager is the same one that took them through the recent Gold Cup in 2021. Sorry, the recent Copa America in 2021. So his name is Alfaro Gustavo, and he has been Ecuador's manager since 2020. So actually Copa America 2021 was his first tournament as a manager, but he has managed a lot of club teams, especially in Argentina, because he is Argentinian. A lot of clubs, I won't go through them, but take my word for it, he's been managing, is it solely or mostly? No, he did manage Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia in 2009, but all the way since around 1995 or possibly a bit sooner, he's been a manager. So he is 50 years old. Now, let me make that 60 years old. Okay, let's move on to goalkeepers, and we have kind of an interesting story here, but I'll start by going through the names. So we have as a possible, likely candidate. So we have no definites, although I suspect these kind of are definite, but you'll see why I put them as likely. So Alexander Dominguez is a likely candidate. Hernan Galindez, likely. And newcomer Wellington Moises Ramirez, also a likely candidate there, and I'll talk about why soon. But I'll just introduce as a possible candidate Pedro Ortiz, and then as possible but unlikely we have George Pinos and Gabriel Ceballos. So six players on the menu here, and we'll go through them, and I'll talk a little bit about them. So Alexander Dominguez was a starting keeper from the World Cup 2014 on. So that's the 2015 and 19 Copa America. And he was actually captain of the team in the Copa America 2021, but he didn't appear. He was on the bench for the whole time. However, since then, he started 7 of the 17 games since the Copa America, and was on the bench for 2 others. He was suspended for 1 because he got a red card in qualifying in their home draw with Brazil. So he is 35 years old, maybe 36 now, no, 35. And he's been with the team since 2011. He was actually the backup keeper for the 2011 Copa America, and he has 66 caps. So getting a little old even for a goalie there. He's currently with LDU Quito in Ecuador and has played in various countries in South America, including Vélez Sarsfield in Argentina and Monterrey in Mexico, which is in Central America, of course. So yeah, a bit concerning then as a starter, since he didn't start in the Copa America and has started less than half of their games since, but he still seems one of the more likely candidates. Also likely is Hernan Galindez. So he also started 7 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America. And he also was on the bench for the first 2 games in the 2021 Copa America. So I'll bet you're wondering, well, who was the starter? However, Galindez did gain the starting position for games 3, 4, and 5 there. And Copa America 2021 was his first tournament, even though he's 35 years old, just like Alexander Dominguez. But he's only been on the team since 2021 and has 11 caps and no goals, most of those coming recently. And he's with Aucas in Ecuador and has played most of his career in Ecuador, but also played in Chile and Argentina also earlier in his career. Actually, he was born in Argentina. And yeah, he got his first cap then at age 34. And that Copa America in 2021 was his first tournament. However, he now seems fairly as likely as Dominguez to start. Now, the other likely candidate is a much younger goalkeeper. He got his first appearance on the bench in September 2021, so just after the Gold Cup, and he started 2 of their 17 remaining games. So he was not the starting keeper for the Copa America either. None of the likely candidates were. And in fact, he wasn't selected for the team. He got his first cap in 2021, as I said. He is 22 years old, so possibly an up-and-comer there for Ecuador. And he plays, as many of them do, for Independiente del Valle in Ecuador. He was actually loaned to Real Sociedad in Spain and just played for their B team there. So Wellington Moises Ramirez, and definitely I'm saying, sorry, I should be careful with those words. He's a likely candidate to make the team because, as I said, he started 2 of their games, but was on the bench for 11 of them. So a likely candidate, but probably not a starter. Okay, now we get to Pedro Ortiz, who was the guy who started the 2021 Copa America, started and finished games 1 and 2, but then lost his starting position and was replaced by, as we saw, Hernan Galindez. So since the 2021 Copa America, he's only started 1 of their 17 games and subbed in for 1. And was on the bench for 7. So a possible candidate, but seems to be behind the other 3 as far as that goes. So he is 32 years old, and he's been with the team only since 2019. So another late starter there. And those 2 caps in the Copa America 2021 were his only caps. He was a backup keeper in the 2019 Copa America, but he didn't see any action in that tournament or in the games prior to 2021. So Pedro Ortiz, a possible candidate, but whatever earned him that starting position in the 2021 Copa America, he's dropped off since then. All right, I'll just quickly introduce Jorge Pinos and Gabriel Ceballos, because they're possible but unlikely. So we'll go into more detail on them if they play, if they look like more likely candidates by the time the Cup comes around. So Jorge Pinos is first appeared in November 2019, but then was absent for almost 2 years. And he just subbed in for one game after 2021 Copa America and was on the bench for 3 games. Okay, so he's also fairly old, 33 years old, got his first cap in 2021. Gabriel Ceballos, though, is younger. He's 24 years old, and he got his first cap in September 2021. And he didn't start any of their remaining games, but was on the bench for 3. So those 2 players, kind of outside possibilities. All right, so it is hard to say who is going to be the starting keeper there, but we'd have to say now it looks like one of the older keepers, Alexander Dominguez and Hernan Galindez. However, they did take us by surprise in 2021, so who knows what's going to happen there. All right, we move on to the defense. We do have a category for general or versatile defenders, but we don't have anyone who I have labeled that way. We're going to actually start with a player who has retired and kind of left a spot, left the starting position open for other players. So Arturo Mina. Arturo Mina, I'll give a bit more details once we go through the candidates here. So a definite candidate is Piero Hincapié, and also definite Felix Torres. And we have Robert Arboleda as a likely candidate, and Xavier Arriaga as a likely candidate. They usually bring 5 or 6 central defenders. We have a possible in Fernando Leon, and another possible in Jackson Porozo. And then they are bringing some new players into the team and trying them out. So we have quite a few possible but not likely. In Joshua Quinones, Gustavio Valasila, Marlon Mejia, Luis Segovia, and then we also have a few seem to be off the squad. Moises Cardozo, Franklin Guerra, and Diego Almeida, who's a bit of an interesting case. So let's go back. We have a lot of players to deal with, but we'll only go into details on the one that seemed more likely. Okay, let's begin with Arturo Mina, because he retired in 2019, so he wasn't there for the 2021 Copa America, but he was a starter in 2019 and in the 2016 Centenario editions. So kind of leaving a hole in the defense to be filled. And he's still playing club soccer in Turkey, and he's only 32 years old, but he does seem to have retired from the team. So filling that gap, and I should actually say that a lot of these players started in 2019. These 2 actually started in 2021. So they were new to the team there. Piero Hincapié. Piero Hincapié started 14 of their 17 games. That's why we have him as a definite candidate. And he is 20 years old with 19 caps and 1 goal. he earned his first cap in 2021. And he plays for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, so a solid club affiliation there. He was with Talares before that, and then in Ecuador before that. So a definite candidate, Piero Hincapié. Also definite, Felix Torres. So he, give me a moment here. He started 12 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America. And he was on the bench for 2 of them. So he scored a crucial late winning goal at home to Paraguay during qualifying. He actually got 2 goals during qualifying. However, in the Copa America 2021, he was just on the bench, so seems to have worked his way into a starting position there. And I think I forgot to mention that Piero Hincapié actually did start all games in the 2021 Copa America too. So Felix Torres didn't, and he kind of came into the picture after Copa America there. And I wonder if I should have him as a likely. But I'll stick with what I initially put was a definite candidate. Likely is Robert Arbeloa. He actually was a starter in the 2021 Copa America. However, he's only started 3 of their 17 games since then and was subbed in for 2, so kind of losing his spot on the squad. He's one of not many players who was with the team before 2019. So he is 31 years old, and he has been with the team since 2016 and has 32 caps and 2 goals. And he plays for Sao Paulo in Brazil, and he was in Ecuador before that. So he was on the bench for the 2016 Copa America Centenario, and was not a starter in the 2019 Copa America, but after game 1, he became a starter for games 2 and 3. And then, as I said, was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, but hasn't played as much since then. So we just have him as a likely candidate because he was on the bench for 7 of those 17 games, so still in the picture. Also likely is Xavier Arriaga. So he started 2, actually the first and their last of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America, and he was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 7. So usually selected, but not usually a starter. He is 28 years old and has been with the team since 2018 with 17 caps and 1 goal. Xavier Arriaga plays for Seattle Sounders in the USA and was with teams in Ecuador before that. So he was part of the 2019 Copa America squad, but he was just on the bench there, as he was for the 2021 Copa America there. Okay, next are the 2 possible candidates, Fernando Leon. So Fernando Leon started 3 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and was on the bench for 5. But he wasn't selected for the last 3 of those 17 matches. So those were 3 friendlies. So that it kind of contributes him to being considered just a possible candidate. He's been with the team for a long time, since 2014. He's 29 years old, but in that time he only has 6 caps, and he's played for Independiente in Ecuador since 2011, so more than 10 years with the same team there. He was actually an outside consideration for the 2015 Copa America, but didn't make the squad. but he did make the squad for the 2021 Copa America, but he was just a bench player there. He didn't see any action. Okay, just excuse me for a moment while I take a drink. Okay, sorry about that. Now we have Jackson Porozo, and we have him as a possible candidate because he started the last of their 17 games. So it's always a bit confusing when that happens, how much of a consideration they really are. He was on the bench for one other game, and yeah, he has never been involved in a tournament, so wasn't part of the squad for the Copa America 2021. So he's been been in and around the squad though since 2019. So he earned his first cap there, and he has 3 caps, and he's 22 years old, and he plays for Troyes in France, and was with Boa Vista before that, and Santos in Brazil before that. So some good club affiliations there. I wonder if he'll move into the picture a bit more, because that's kind of the way it goes. All right, and we'll just kind of quickly go through the names here. So Joshua Quinones, his first and only cap was a substitute appearance in October 2021. And he was on the bench for just one of their 11 games after that, so not likely. Gustavo Valasila returned after a more than 3-year absence in December 2021 to start one of their 17 games, and that was it for him. He plays for Colorado Rapids in the USA. Marlon Mejia got his first and only appearance as a starter in October 2021, but hadn't appeared since then. So, yeah, and actually Luis Segovia is the same. First and only appearance as a starter in 2021, but that's his only cap. And again, we'll see if they come into the picture a little bit more as time goes. And we also have a couple of players who seem to be off the squad, but I have put them on the list because there's an outside chance they may show up. So Moises Corozo, he last appeared on the bench in March 2021. And Franklin Guerra last appeared for the national team in September 2021, so that was after the Gold Cup. That was just on the bench, though. And Diego Almeida. So Diego Almeida may be an up-and-comer. His first and only appearance was as a substitute in December 2021, but he wasn't selected for any of their 7 matches after that. However, he is with Barcelona in Spain, Barcelona's B team in Spain, and was with their youth club for 10 years. So he was born in Spain and is just 18 years old, you know, so maybe too soon for this cup, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the future. Okay, so that is a lot of players on our plate, but we'll just go through them again. So central defenders, Piero Hincapié we have as a definite, and Felix Torres we have as a definite to make the cup, although I kind of thought he was maybe between definite and likely. Robert Arboleda we have as a likely candidate, but likely to reach the cup, but likely to be a substitute when he gets there. And Xavier Arriaga in the same boat, likely to reach the cup, but would probably be a substitute. And as possible candidates, we have Fernando Leon and Jackson Porozo. And then we have a whole bunch of candidates as possible, but unlikely, or seems to be off the squad. And we won't go through those names again, but there they are for YouTube watchers to look at for a moment. until they disappear as we move on to left back. So left back position, we have one definite candidate, and that is Pervis Estupinan. And we have one likely candidate in Diego Palacios. And then two candidates as possible but unlikely, Christian Cruz and Lionel Quinones. And then two candidates who seem to be off the squad, Beda Cachedo and Mario Pineda. All right, so we'll go back through and give more detail on those players. So Pervis Estupinan made his debut in the Copa America there. He played games in the lead up to the Copa America, but he really kind of came out in the Copa America because he did very well. He made the team of the tournament. He was the only Ecuadorian player to achieve the honor. Usually teams that are knocked out in the quarterfinals don't get that honor, but he did, and was well deserving of it too. So he started 14 of the 17 games since the Copa America, and he started and finished all 5 games in the Copa America. If you recall, that was a 4-team group stage, five teams in the group and 4 games in the group stage. So the quarterfinals was game 5. It seems like that good performance there earned him a move to Brighton in England since 2022. But his skills had been recognised because he was with Villarreal in Spain before that, and with Watford in England from 2016 to 20, even though he was loaned out to quite a few teams, mostly in Spain. So he is 24 years old and has been with the team since 2019. It looks like his first cap, though, was after the 2019 Copa America. But he now has 26 caps and 3 goals. So a bit of a scoring defender as far as that goes. And Pervis Estupinan, we think you'll definitely see not only on the squad, but on the field as the left back. There is also a likely candidate in Diego Palacios. So I must say that he actually plays more as a left winger or a left forward, a more attacking role on the squad. But he started only one of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and was subbed in for 2. But he was on the bench for 11 games, which is why we consider him likely to make the team. During the 2021 Copa America, he actually wasn't on the bench for games 1 and 2, but he gained a starting position for games 4 and 5. And he plays for Los Angeles FC in the USA. So he is 23 years old, and he's been with the squad since 2018, although he wasn't a part of the 2019 Copa America squad. He, since 2018, has 11 caps and 0 goals. So seems fairly firmly entrenched in the squad, but doesn't get a lot of starts for them, or indeed a lot of games. But we still consider him a likely candidate to reach the cup. And that's partly because there really aren't many other candidates available as left back. So we move on to the possible but unlikely candidates. Christian Cruz. He started 2 of their 17 games since the Copa America, but he wasn't selected for 15 others, so including the last 9 matches. So seemed to kind of get in there and then has fallen off again. He's been with the team since 2017, is the 30-year-old Christian Cruz, and only has 3 caps in that time. He plays for LDU Quito in Ecuador. Sorry, I may be giving too much detail for an unlikely candidate. Okay, Lionel Quinones is also unlikely, and he didn't start any of their games since the 2021 Copa America and was on the bench for just one. So very unlikely. I'm guessing that appearance on the bench was fairly recent. Otherwise, I would have put him as seemingly off the squad. And that is what we have. Bader Cachado. I always have trouble with that name. Bader Cachado. He last appeared for the national team in November 2021. So we consider him off the squad. He was a starter in the 2019 Copa America, but he lost his starting position there and seems to have been kind of drifting off the team. And Mario Pineda also seems to be off the team. And he actually was part of the Copa America squad. He appeared as a substitute in Game 4, but has rarely appeared since then. So those two players, Bader Cachado and Mario Pineda, have an outside chance of making the squad, but we doubt that it'll happen. Okay, on the right side of defense, the right back position, we have Byron Castillo as a likely candidate, and then Jose Hurtado as possible but unlikely. We have actually three players who are possible but unlikely. Alongside Jose Hurtado, we have Marcos Andres Lopez, usually called Andres Lopez, and Romario Cachado. They're going to torment me with that name throughout this podcast. That name that I can't pronounce properly. And as a seemingly off the squad candidate, Pedro Perlaza. So 4 candidates there, none of them definite, but most likely Byron Castillo. So Byron Castillo got his first cap after the Copa America, so in September 2021, but he started 8 of their 17 games. 8 of their 17 games, and he subbed in for 2 more. Now, I should say that the person challenging his position is a right winger. So I'll come to him a bit later when we cover right wingers, but I'll just say his name now. It is Angelo Preciado. So he is a right winger, but is often playing in that right back position. Okay, so Byron Castillo started 8 of their 17 games and was subbed in for 2, and he is 24 years old and has been with the squad, as I said, since 2021, earned his first cap there in September, and has 10 caps and 0 goals. Okay, and he plays for Leon in Mexico and was with teams in Ecuador. They have a team in Ecuador called Barcelona SC, which causes a bit of confusion. And it's one of the bigger clubs in Argentina too. But the player I mentioned, Almeida, before that, it really is Barcelona in Spain that he plays for, and he's the only one. All of the others you hear Barcelona for, it'll be the Barcelona Soccer Club in Ecuador. Okay, so then the candidates who seem to be off the squad are Jose Hurtado. So we have him as possible but unlikely because he started one of their games, one of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America, and was on the bench for one other, but he wasn't selected for obviously 15 others, including the last 10. He was on the squad for the 2021 Copa America, but he was he didn't see any action in there, and was a bit of a surprise selection actually for that tournament. Andres Lopez is he returned after an almost 2-year absence in October 2021 and started 2 of the 11 games that were remaining. But again, he wasn't selected for the last 7 matches there, so he doesn't look like a likely candidate. Romario Caicedo, he got his first cap actually in a friendly in 2017, and he appeared on the bench just before the Copa America. But he was off the team in between those 2 times, and then he reappeared in January 2022 as a substitute, but wasn't selected for the last 6 games. So all of these guys have had some involvement, but not recent involvement. And the candidate we think is off the team now is Pedro Perlaza, and he last appeared for the national team in June 2021, so just before the 2021 Copa America there, so seems to be quite far off the team, never really made it onto the team, in fact. Okay, so we'll review the right and left backs there. So going back to the left backs, we have Pervis Estupinan as a definite candidate and likely as a starter, as the starter in the left back position. And as the starter right back, I'm just going to put Byron Castillo as a possible candidate there. And the other possible candidate is the right winger, Preciado. I should actually be careful to mention his first name too, because there are 2 players, Preciados, and Angelo Preciado and Ayrton Preciado on the team. So this is Angelo Preciado, the right winger who often plays as a left back, and I'll introduce him when we get to right wingers. But for now, we're going to move on to the midfield, and we'll start with defensive midfielders, and they have a lot of them. Okay, so we'll just introduce by name. So Moises Caicedo is a definite candidate. Carlos Gruezo, a definite candidate. Alan Franco, a likely candidate. Jegson Mendez, a likely candidate. And Jose Cifuentes, a possible candidate. Michael Carcelen, a possible candidate. And then 4 possible but unlikely candidates in Dixon Arroyo, Jordi Alcivar, João Ortiz, and Johnny Quinones. All right, so we have quite a few candidates to deal with there, and you may wonder. I said the team was kind of narrow. You may wonder how they fit them all in. Well, the fact is that Gruezo is the most central of the midfielders, and Moises Caicedo fairly central, but he plays kind of in a left midfield role a lot of the time. And on the right side, it's kind of a mix between Franco and Cifuentes more recently, and Jegson Mendez has kind of been in and out. So we'll talk about them specifically here. So beginning with Moises Caicedo. Moises Caicedo. So he started 13 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America, and his first cap was in 2020. So he's just 21 years old and has 23 caps and 2 goals. So he's suddenly become an important player for Ecuador, and he plays for Brighton in England. We're going to see that they have 3 players on this Brighton squad in England. And he was a starter in the 2021 Copa America. So really moved into position quickly and is now very much entrenched. Carlos Gruezo is more of a veteran, and I probably should have started with him, but Carlos Gruezo had started also 14 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America. Actually, Moises Caicedo started 13, so I definitely should have put him first, Gruezo first. And Gruezo has been around the squad quite a bit longer, since 2014, and he's 27 years old and has 45 caps and 1 goal. So he plays for Augsburg in Germany now, and he also played for Stuttgart in Germany. But in between those two, he played for FC Dallas in USA, and he was with some of the bigger clubs in Ecuador prior to that. His first tournament was the 2014 World Cup, where he actually started and finished game 1, but then lost his starting position there. However, for the 2016 Centenario Copa America, he started all 4 games, and he was involved in 2019 too. However, in 2021, he appeared only in game 5, and I believe he was struggling because he had a positive COVID test there. So, yeah, he is a starter, but there seemed to be some problem in 2021 there. However, since then, he has been starting almost all of their games. All right, so Alan Franco, also, these are all coded as defensive midfielders. Alan Franco started 4 of their 17 games since the Copa America and was subbed in for 6 and on the bench for 2 more. So he's in and around, but not really a starter. He's been with the team since 2018 and has 23 caps and 1 goal, and is 24 years old. And he plays for Atletico Mineiro in Brazil, and was loaned to Talleres in Argentina. Actually, he's on loan with them now, and he was loaned to Charlotte FC in the United States, and was in Ecuador before that. For the 2019 Copa America, he was selected for the preliminary squad, but didn't make the final cut. And in the 2021 Copa America, he was subbed into game 2 late on, and then gained a starting position for the remaining 3 games there. So Alan Franco, a likely candidate. Jackson Mendez, I believe he was, yes, a starter in the 2021 Copa America, Jackson Mendez. However, since then, he's only started 3 of their 17 games and subbed in for 4, but he was on the bench for 6. So he seems to have kind of lost his starting position there. He is 25 years old, and he plays, his first cap was in 2018, and he now has 30 caps. And he plays for Los Angeles FC in the USA, and played for Orlando City for 3 years before that, and was in Ecuador prior to that. He did go on loan in Spain in 2015 and 16. Now, he was part of the squad for the Copa America 2019. We see a lot of players don't go beyond that. So one of many players in what seems to have been a rebuild in 2019. And he was on the bench for game 1, but gained a starting position for games 2 and 3, and then was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, as we said. But he hasn't played a lot since then, so we have him as a likely candidate here, but probably as a substitute rather than a starter. Okay, Jose Cifuentes, kind of like Alan Franco, when he's on the field, usually it's as a right midfielder, even though he's coded as a defensive midfielder. And Jose Cifuentes started 4 of their 17 games since the Copa America, and was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2. So we have him as a possible candidate. He's been with the team since 2019 and has 8 caps and 0 goals. And he is just 23 years old. And he also plays for Los Angeles FC in the United States and was in Ecuador before that. But he hasn't been selected for a tournament. He was selected for the preliminary squad in 2019, but didn't make the final cut. They actually didn't put out a preliminary squad for the 2021 Copa America, so he just wasn't on the squad. Also a possible candidate is Michael Carcelen. So Michael Carcelen started 2 of their remaining games. He got his first cap in October 2021 and started 2 of the 11 games that remained and was subbed in for 3 and was on the bench for 3. So he seems to have kind of at least made it onto the bench here. And his first cap, as I said, was in 2021. So he has 5 caps and 1 goal, and he is 25 years old. He plays for Barcelona Soccer Club in Ecuador. All right, we'll kind of go quickly through the possible but unlikely candidates. So Dixon Arroyo didn't start any of their games recently, but subbed in for 1 of those 17 games and was on the bench for the first 3. So not very involved. He's more of a veteran. He's 30 years old, but he got his first cap in 2021. And he was on the squad for the Copa America, but was on the bench there. So seems to kind of have worked his way off the squad again. Kind of came in late and didn't last long. Jordi Alcivar first appeared actually well before the Copa America in November 2020, but he earned his first cap in December 2021, and that's the only appearance he's made. So he plays for Charlotte FC in USA, and maybe an up-and-comer because he's 23 years old, so hasn't really made it onto the team, but still could. João Ortiz. João Ortiz got his first cap in October 2021, and but he just got 1 start and 1 appearance on the bench there. And finally, Johnny Quinones started 1 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America. He was, though, injured for 7 of them, so if he recovers, maybe his chances are better than they seem here. He's 24 years old, and he has 3 caps since 2019. So all 4 of those players kind of with an outside chance of making the squad, but they certainly have plenty of defensive midfielders to choose from. So I'd say it's not that likely. Okay, well, let's take a look at central midfielders. And we have actually just 2 possible but unlikely candidates, and then 1 who seems to be off the squad. So possible but unlikely is Jose Carabali and Fernando Gabor. And seems to be off the squad is Christian Noboa, who's actually a familiar name to fans who follow Ecuador. But let's go back to the Jose Carabali. Now, we won't spend a lot of time on these players because they're unlikely. So Jose Carabali was just subbed into 2 games since the 2021, 2 of their 17 games. But he was on the squad for the Copa America, but for some reason, 2021 Copa America, but for some reason he was not on the bench. Not even on the bench for any of the 5 names, but he was on the roster. Next is Fernando Gabor. So he started 2 of the first 3 of their 17 games and was on the bench for 4 others, 4 of the first 6 games, which was quite promising. But then he got injured for 3 games and he wasn't selected for any of the last 8 matches. So Fernando Gabor has actually been with the team for a long time, since 2013, and was part of the squad for the 2016 Copa America Centenario, and was a sub in that. But he wasn't chosen for the 2019 or the 2021 Copa America. So a bit sad there. It looked like he was kind of making his way back onto the squad. And then it seems like an injury got in the way, and he hasn't really played since then. So possible, but unlikely. And we have Christian Noboa. He's a veteran with the team. He's been with them since 2009 and has 83 caps and 4 goals. But he's 37 years old and really was kind of drifting off the team for quite a while. He was a starter in the 2011 Copa America and for the 2014 World Cup and the 2015 and 16 Copa Americas. However, he wasn't selected in 2019 and was just a substitute in 2021. So, you know, he kind of played for a long time there until 36 years old, but he has not appeared since the 2021 Copa America there. He is still playing club soccer. He's been in Russia for quite a while, actually, since 2015, or actually since all the way back to 2007. And he's one of the players who didn't actually leave Russia as a result of the recent political turmoil. He is in Sochi right now in Russia, but has played for some of their biggest teams, Zenit St. Petersburg and Dynamo Moscow, Rubin Kazan there. So he's a bit of a loss, but he was kind of not really a factor on the team after 2016. So no central midfielders, so it's defensive midfielders who play that role. And we're going to find that the left and right midfielder role are quite thin. All right, so for left midfielders, they actually don't have anyone designated as a left midfielder. No one is kind of coded as a left midfielder. So generally in a 4-3-3 formation, it'll be Moises Caicedo. It'll be Moises Caicedo playing on the left side of the 3-man midfield. And when it's a 4-4-2, it'll generally be a left winger playing in that position. We do have right midfielders, though, and we're going to actually start with someone, a famous player who's now off the team, but Antonio Valencia. Antonio Valencia is retired from international and from club soccer, but he is a real veteran with the team from 2005 to 2019. He had 99 caps and 11 goals, but he's 37 years old now, so is retired from soccer. He most famously played with Manchester United in England from 2009 to 2019. And he was with the team since from the 2006 World Cup all the way to the 2019 Copa America, but retired after that, and hasn't left a gap because they did have to cope with him being gone in 2021. But nevertheless, a famous player who some looking at Ecuador might wonder what happened to. So there it is. So this position in the right midfielder is usually played by Franco or Cifuentes. However, the players we have coded as right midfielders are Angel Mena. I know it's supposed to be pronounced Angel, but I'm going to go with no, I'll try to say Angel Mena, a likely candidate, and Renato Ibarra, who seems to be off the squad, both coded as right midfielders. So Angel Mena actually should be coded as a right winger because he's always playing in an attacking role, usually as a right forward, but I have seen him as a centre forward and a central attacking midfielder too. So certainly not kind of a defensive minded player, which I usually consider right midfielders to be. I consider right wingers more attacking. So think of him as a right winger. He started 9 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 1. So he is 34 years old. And has been with the team since 2015. So got off to a bit of a late start there, but has since earned 43 caps and scored 7 goals. So he plays for Leon in Mexico and was with Cruz Azul in Mexico before that and in Ecuador before that. So he was on the 2016 Copa America squad. But he didn't see any action there. He was just on the bench. However, he was a starter in the 2019 Copa America, but was kind of in and out in the 2021 Copa America. He did appear in all 5 games, but he only started games 2 and 5. However, it seems after that Copa America, he landed more of a starting position, and that's why we have him as a likely candidate now. Renato Ibarra last appeared for the national team in November 2020. So he was on the 2019 Copa America squad, but not on the 2021. Not on the 2021 squad. He also plays in Mexico with Club America. So okay, so let's move on now to left wingers, and they have quite a few of those, but they don't seem to be decided on one of them. And then, ironically, they don't actually use that position that much. So if you think of a 4-4-2, there will be kind of a left winger and right winger, but a 4-3-3, those players will generally move up to being a left and right forward. Okay, so we have candidates in Jeremy Sarmiento, who we consider likely, and Alexander Alvarado, who we consider possible, and Romario Ibarra, who we also consider possible, and João Rojas, sometimes called João Rojas Lopez, who we also consider possible. Possible but unlikely, Janner Cardozo, and seems to be off the squad, Washington Cardozo. Okay, so going back to the beginning, Jeremy Sarmiento. Now, I actually should say that left Ayrton Preciado, who's labeled as an attacking midfielder, often plays in this position, and even left defender Palacios played here, and it's really been filled by various players. But you know, when they do have that position, Jeremy Sarmiento is the one who has filled it most. So he started 3 of their he got his first cap in October 2021 and started 3 of the remaining 14 games and was subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 2. So he actually plays for Brighton in England, and he has done so since 2021 and was with the Brighton Youth Club in England as well. So he is quite young. He's 20 years old. And he's been with Ecuador since 2021 and has 8 caps. And you may think he was born in England, but actually he moved there when he was 7 from Spain. So I'm not sure if he's ever actually lived in Ecuador, but of course he's eligible for them. Jeremy Sarmiento. Okay, possible candidate Alexander Alvarado. He didn't start any of their games since the 2021 Copa America, but he was subbed in for the last one and on the bench for 2 others. But that includes the first one after the Copa America. So he's been a kind of a consideration all that time, and has actually been on the squad since 2019 and has 3 caps and no goals. And he's 23 years old. He plays for Orlando City in the USA. So he wasn't part of the squad for the Copa America 2021. But obviously has had a few appearances since then. Romario Ibarra returned actually after a 15-month absence in March 2022 to start 2 of their 5 remaining games. And he was also subbed in for 2 of those. So kind of making a comeback here. He has actually been with the squad since 2017 and has 22 caps and 3 goals, 28 years old, and plays for Pachuca in Mexico and Minnesota United in the USA before that. So he was a consideration for the he was part of the squad for the 2019 Copa America. He actually subbed early into game 1 and gained a starting position for that tournament. However, sometime after that, he basically seems to have been dropped from the squad for a time. And as I said, kind of came back in March 2022 and played 4 of the 5 games. So a consideration, or we have him as a possible, given all of that. And the other possible is João Rojas. So he started 2 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 3. So he's been with the squad since 2019 and has 8 caps and is 25 years old. And he plays for Monterrey in Mexico and in Ecuador before that. But he hasn't managed to reach a squad for the reach a tournament yet. So he was around. He was an outside consideration even as far back as 2016. But as I said, he didn't earn his first cap since 2019 and didn't make the 2019 or 2021 Copa America squads. All right, next is Jana Carrozo, and we consider him possible but unlikely. So he got his first cap in October 2021 and started just 2 of their remaining 11 games and was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. So he plays for Pachuca in Mexico, and we won't give too much detail on him since he's unlikely. Also, Washington Carrozo last appeared for the team on the bench in September 2021, so just after the Gold Cup, and he only had 1 cap before that. But he's just 24 years old, so you may see him in the future. He plays for Sporting Cristal in Peru, but we have him as seemingly off the squad. So let's go back. I've been kind of forgetting to do it, to the beginning of the midfielders there. And we have Moises Caicedo as definite candidate and Carlos Gruezo as definite. But the others, Alan Franco and Jegson Mendes and Jose Cifuentes, are just probably bench players if they make it. In the central midfielders, none of them are likely and even to make the squad, let alone be starters. And right midfielder, Angel Mena, I'm actually going to put him as a starter because I think he will be, and but not left winger Jeremy Sarmiento. And okay. I kind of jumped the gun there thinking we have no right wingers, but I have talked about the one we have 2 candidates. We have Angelo Preciado as a likely candidate, but as I've said, he has been playing more as a right defender. He did play up as a right winger, but has been filling the role of the right defender more than that. And we have Freddie Mina as a possible but unlikely candidate. So Angelo Preciado started 6 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 2. So he's often around and very possibly a starter. He has been with the team since 2018 and has 23 caps and is 24 years old. And he plays for Genk in Belgium and was with Independiente del Valle in Ecuador before that, one of the bigger teams there. And he was not part of the squad for the 2019 Copa America, although he was selected for the preliminary squad there, just didn't make the final cut. And in the Copa America 2021, he started, he was a starter, started all 5 games. And as I said, lined up as a right back in all 5 starts. So really it's Angel Mena who's more of the attacking right side player. And although he has moved up to attack. The other candidate, Freddie Mina, is last appeared for the team in December 2021, which was not that long ago, but he only has 1 cap, and that was in 2021, and is 24 years old. So may come into the picture, but doesn't seem to be lining up to be part of this World Cup squad. So Angelo Preciado, I can't say that he'll be a starter because he's only started 6 of their 17 games since there. So kind of a bit of uncertainty in some of these wide positions. They're trying out different players in those positions. Kind of haven't settled on a lot of those. All right, we move on to forwards. And first position we look at is attacking midfielders. And really, they don't have that many. And that may be why they go with a 4-3-3 with a kind of outside forwards rather than a central attacking midfielder. But anyway, we have Ayrton Preciado as a well, he would be a possible candidate, but he's actually an injury doubt, which I'll talk about here. So they may be missing him. And we have Jojan Julio as a possible but unlikely, and Danny Cabezas as possible but unlikely, and Juan Cazares as seemingly off the squad. So you can see no definite or likely players, and Ayrton Preciado would be a possible candidate, except that he's injured. Let's take a look at him. So Ayrton Preciado started 2 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America, and was subbed in for 4 others, but he was out with 2 separate injuries for the first 3 games and then for the last 5 games, and it's a fractured tibia that he's out with. So I'm not sure that that's going to heal in time for the Cup. As I say, the last 5 games, so that was probably from the end of March to June. So maybe it will heal in time. But we'll give an update in the update podcast on his situation. He has been with Ecuador since 2017 and has 27 caps and 3 goals and is 28 years old. And he was part of the, as so many of them were, their first tournament was 2019. And there he started game 1, but actually was subbed out at halftime and lost his starting position. And the opposite was true in 2021, where he was subbed into game 1 and gained a starting position after that. So as I say, injury has caused a lot of problems for him recently, so hard to say where he will be. He's coded as an attacking midfielder, by the way, but he usually plays on the left wing or as a left forward. Okay, Jojan Julio is possible but unlikely. He didn't start any of the 17 games since the 2021 Copa America, but he subbed in for 1 and was on the bench for 2. He's currently on loan with Santos in Brazil, which is a pretty big team, and he's 24 years old. He's been with the team since 2019, but has earned only 5 caps in that time, and he's never played in a tournament. So maybe that move to Brazil will kind of raise his cachet prior to the Cup, but we'll have to see. We have him as unlikely right now. Danny Cabezas is the same. He got his first cap in October 2021. Hasn't started any games, but subbed in for 2 there. But he wasn't selected for any of the last 7 matches, so a bit doubtful there. And at 28 years old, he only has 2 caps, so quite unlikely there. Juan Cáceres. Juan Cáceres seems to be off the squad. He last appeared for the team in June 2021. I think that was just before the Copa America, and he's always struggled to get onto the team. He was on the rosters for the 2015 and 2016 Copa Americas, but was just a sub in those games. And we won't go into detail on him. And sorry, we do have a few other candidates who are seemingly off the squad. So Fidel Martinez and Junior Sornosa and Damian Diaz. So we won't go into detail on these players here, but just briefly, Fidel Martinez is a bit of a veteran with the team, having been on the team since 2008, but he's 32 years old, which is not that old. But he was kind of on and off the team, a starter in 2015, but on the bench in the 2014 World Cup, and just a sub in this 2016 Copa America Centenario. He was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, but lost his starting position, and he hasn't been called up since then. Junior Sornosa has been around since 2014 when he earned his first cap, but has never made it onto the squad. He last appeared in September 2021, so after the Copa America, but just not since September 2021. And Damian Diaz was a substitute in the 2021 Copa America, but has not appeared since then. And he is 36 years old and only earned 4 caps with the national team, so never really made it onto the team. So we don't have any attacking midfielders who look like they're going to be starters, or actually who even look like they're going to make it onto the national team, except for the injured Ayrton Preciado, who's a possible candidate if he's fit. Okay, secondary strikers, we just have one, but he's possible but unlikely. That's Walter Chala. So he hasn't started any games since his first cap in the he earned his first cap in 2021, but he wasn't selected for the Copa America and hasn't started any games since then, but he was subbed in for one and on the bench for one. So kind of an outside candidate in Walter Chala. All right, well, we move on to forwards now. And the one thing we did say in our podcast last time around before the 2021 World Cup was that Michael Estrada would be the starter, and we turned out to be wrong on that. So no, we didn't. He did start game 1, but he was subbed out at 69, and then he lost his starting position. So we make a claim to have been correct. But anyway, he didn't play a big role in that tournament, but he is back, and I won't go into more detail until I go through the names here. But we have Michael Estrada as a definite candidate, along with Gonzalo Plata and Ener Valencia. And as a possible candidate, we have Jordi Cachado. There's that name tormenting me again. And we have other possible candidates: Leonardo Campana, Jorge Avriasco, Nilson Agula. Sorry, what am I saying? Nilson Angulo. And we also have two possible but unlikely candidates, all with the same last name: Jose Angulo and Brian Angulo. So a lot of players to look at there, and obviously they can't all be kind of centre forwards. So what they are is the usually the outside forwards in that 4-3-3 formation. When it's a 4-4-2, or when they just have one forward, it's usually Michael Estrada or Enner Valencia playing as the primary centre forwards. So the left side is actually quite undecided, whereas the right side is more stable. And maybe I'll talk a bit about that at the end, but let's introduce these players. Michael Estrada has, as I said, started the 2021 Copa America, but lost his starting position there. But since then has started 10 of their 17 games and subbed in for 5. So we think he's a definite candidate to reach the cup, and probably to be a starter, although they seem to switch up the starter, as we'll see. He's been with the squad since 2017 and has 33 caps and 8 goals, and he's 26 years old and plays for Toluca in Mexico. And actually, he's with Cruz Azul in Mexico on loan right now. And he was also loaned to DC United in the United States, but was with Independiente del Valle in Ecuador before moving to Mexico there. So he wasn't part of the 2019 Copa America, even though he got his first cap in 2017, but he was part of the 2021 squad. And actually has done very well in World Cup qualifying, scoring 6 of their 17 goals there. So that kind of helps his cause as a starter. Another starter is Gonzalo Plata, although he usually plays on the right, in the right forward position. And he started 9 of their 17 games since the 2021 Copa America and subbed in for 5 of those. So that's why we have him as a definite candidate to at least make the squad. And he has been with the team since 2019, but didn't make the squad for the 2019 Copa America. So he has 10 caps and 4 goals and is just 22 years old. And he is with some good clubs here: Real Valladolid in Spain since recently, and was with Sporting Lisbon before that, and with Independiente del Valle, as so many of them are, in Ecuador before that. So he was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, his first tournament, but he was subbed out 69 minutes into game 1 and was just lost his starting position, was just a substitute after that. Okay, and finally, probably their biggest name, Enner Valencia. Enner Valencia scored 4 of their goals in World Cup qualifying, so a bit behind Estrada there, but is, as I say, probably their biggest name. And he started actually only 8 games since the 2021 Copa America and was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 1. He was injured for 3 of them, but I'm a bit surprised that he's not starting more often. So he's a veteran on the team. He has been with the team since 2012 and has 72 caps and an amazing goal record of 35 goals. So that's a goal every 2 games, roughly. But he is getting a little old. He's 33 years old. And he plays for Fenerbahce in Turkey. And he did play for Tigres in Mexico from 2017 to 2020, but a lot of people will remember him as playing for West Ham in England and on loan with Everton between 2014 and 17. So he also gained fame in his first tournament, the World Cup in 2014, where he scored all three of Ecuador's goals. Was a starter, of course, as he was in the tournaments since then. So 2015, 16, and 19 Copa Americas, as well as the 2021 Copa America, although he didn't score any goals in the 2021 Copa America there. So anyway, still seems to be fairly established on the squad, and they would definitely bring him to the cup. But after going over his numbers there, I'm not dead sure he would be a starter. Anyway, we have a few possible candidates. So Jordi Caicedo started actually just one of their last 17 games and was subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 2. And I believe it was the last game, which was the one he started. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. So again, when they kind of come in at the end like that, it's a bit difficult to know, where they're going to be. Anyway, he has been with the team since 2021 and has 10 caps and 2 goals, but is 25 years old, so a bit late in joining the team. He plays for Tigres in Mexico and was with CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria before that, and in Brazil with Vitória from 2019 to 2021. And he was part of the Copa America squad in 2021, but only came in as a substitute for 2 games. So a possible candidate there, bringing a bit of well, they already have youth in the front line, but he's 25 years old, so scrap that comment I was just about to make. But apply it to Leonardo Campagna, who is younger, 22 years old. Phew, I really worked my way out of that pickle well, didn't I? Okay, Leonardo Campagna has started one of their 17 games, actually one of the recent friendlies, since the 2017 Copa America, and he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2 more, actually towards the end there. So at the beginning, right after the Copa America, and then those friendlies recently, but not so much in the middle. Leonardo Campagna has been with the team since 2019 and has 12 caps. And as I said, is 22 years old. And he's with Wolverhampton, on the roster of Wolverhampton in England since 2020. But recently he was loaned to Inter Miami in the USA, and with a couple of teams before that, including Grasshopper in Switzerland. So kind of working his way into Europe there. His first tournament was the 2021 Copa America. He was actually on the preliminary squad in 2019, but not selected. And in 2021, he didn't appear in game 1, but he did start games 2 and 3, Leonardo Campagna. But yeah, as I said, that was promising, being a starter for a couple of games there, but seems to have dropped off the squad and then come back fairly recently. So a bit difficult to know how to code him, but we have him as a possible. Djorkaeff Riasco. Djorkaeff Riasco is got his first cap in October 2021 and started 1 of the 11 games from that time, was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3. So, however, he didn't appear in any of the last, he didn't appear in 4 of the last 5 matches, so recently has kind of dropped off. He's been with the team since 2021 and just has those 2 caps, and is 23 years old, and is with Newell's Old Boys in Argentina, which is a pretty fairly big club. And we'll have to see, maybe he will kind of come along there. Even younger is Nilson Angulo, Nilson Angulo is 19 years old and he plays for Anderlecht in Belgium. So he hasn't played a lot for the national team. His first cap was in October 2021, but he wasn't selected after that. So perhaps too young, but he seems to be doing well at the club level, as I say, with Anderlecht in Belgium since 2022 and was with LDU Quito in Ecuador before that. So maybe an up-and-comer in Nilson Angulo. The other two Angulos are possible but not likely. So Jose Angulo was just on the bench for one game since the 2021 Copa America and has never been involved in a tournament. Although, he was actually on the preliminary squad as far back as 2016, but hasn't made an impression on the squad even until now. He's with Tijuana in Mexico. Brian Angula is with Santos in Brazil, which I said is a quite a big club, and he got his first cap in November 2018, but then was absent for 3 years until he returned to the team in September 2021. Although only as a substitute for 4 games and on the bench for 3 games. So actually, and the reason we have him as possible but unlikely is that he hasn't been included in any of the last 8 matches. So it looked like he was a possible candidate there when he came back in September 2021, but this year hasn't been called up. However, being with Santos in Brazil may kind of improve his chances. He's not young, he's 27 years old. So hard to say what will become, but we have possible but unlikely. So Hugh, let's go through the attacking players. So attacking midfielders, there are no candidates except for the Ayrton Preciado, but even if he was there, we wouldn't peg him as a starter. And anyway, he's injured. No secondary strikers that we would consider likely starters, but we're going to put all 3 of these as likely starters. Forwards Michael Estrada, Gonzalo Plata, who usually plays on the right, and Enna Valencia, who either joins Estrada as 2 forwards or plays as the left forward. The other ones are all possible but unlikely. So that brings us to the end of the going through all the players, and we're going to talk about a couple of things before we do a run through of those players. So let's talk about some of the things that we talked about at the beginning. So we said that it was kind of a narrow team with few outside midfielders or wingers. And that's true. Most of the players are defensive midfielders, and those guys will play the central midfield and left or right midfield roles, but they don't always line up that way. And so they do sometimes have a 4-4-2 formation with wingers, or in the 4-4-3 formation, kind of attacking forwards kind of on the outside. And so generally it's players filling that role slightly out of position. It could be a right back or a left back who pushes up, or it could be an attacking midfielder or a forward who plays on the left or right side. But most of the players are coded centrally. So that's it. We kind of have basically some players playing slightly out of position from what they're coded as. And I don't really have a lot to add other than the fact that I'd say about half of the positions, especially in defense, seemed nailed down and in the central midfield. But in terms of those outside positions, various players have been filling the roles, so they're not nailed down. And even the forward line, Michael Estrada and Enna Valencia and Plata seem fairly nailed down, but there are other players kind of coming in to those positions once in a while. Okay, well, in terms of club affiliations, none of the players are really with top teams, but some of them are with kind of secondary teams. So we have Enna Valencia, for example, with Fenerbahce, and we have 3 players with Brighton in England. Brighton recently is a good team. We'd say around, top 10 in the English Premier League. But they've been doing very well, and typically Brighton is more of a secondary team in England. In fact, they haven't been in the Premier League for that long. So if I was giving this report, say 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be talking about a second division team, a championship level team. But they're doing well nowadays. So these 3 players, Jeremy Sarmiento, Moises Caicedo, and Moises Caicedo, Sarmiento, and Pervis Estupinan, all doing quite well with Brighton, especially Caicedo and Estupinan, who are starters. We have a few players with teams like Plata plays for Valladolid in Spain. And we have that young player who's probably not going to make the squad, actually, but Almeida, who's with the Barcelona B team. So he's more one to look at in the future. And we have Anderlecht, the young Nilson Angulo with Anderlecht. So again, kind of respectable teams in Europe, but not top level teams. Probably Bayer Leverkusen, Piero Hincapi is with one of the top teams in Europe. Outside of Europe, though, we have a few playing in Mexico and USA for decent teams, and then some playing for example, Santos in Brazil or Newell's Old Boys in Argentina. Respectable teams in or among the top teams in South America there. So I'm not sure how much of an impression that gives. Otherwise, they'll all be playing for the top teams in Ecuador, but actually there aren't many playing in Ecuador. Most of them, of course, started with those teams, but have moved on to the other countries that I've been talking about here. Okay, in terms of age and experience, I said I've been putting together this little chart to compare World Cup teams. So one of the things we consider is the total players under consideration. Those are players who are either definite, likely, or possible. And it's interesting to see how many there are. So fairly tight teams will have fewer players, and teams experimenting with a lot of players like Ghana will have more players. I'll use Qatar as an example of a team that has just kind of 26 players on the table. So they've pretty much decided on their World Cup final squad. Well, Ecuador is kind of at the high end, and that fits in with what I say. So they kind of decided on some positions, especially in defense, in the defense and in the central midfield, but not so much on the wings, and forwards is somewhere in between. So they seem to be considering still a few players under consideration. So 33 is on the high end. The average for the teams I've done so far is 30, and that kind of fits in with what we're saying. So still a bit undecided on their final squad. The average age of all those players is 25.4, and we did note that during as we went through the players, that a lot of them got their start in 2019, And there weren't a lot of players who were on the squad before that. So that fits in with them being fairly young on average. So usually 25 to 27 is the range, and Ecuador is 25.4 years old on average. So that is maybe a year and a half to 2 years younger than average. Actually, it is the youngest team that I've looked at so far, but only by 0.3. Average number of caps kind of goes along with that. So this is very low, actually, at 19.7 per player. Average caps per player is 19.7. And the overall average is 27 there. So that suggests they're bringing in quite a few younger players, and fits in with what we said, that a lot of them don't have tournaments before 2019. Total goals among all of those players is very low at 77. So they're not a scoring team, and we'll take a look at that shortly. But it's a total of 77, which is one of the lowest among the teams I have. Qatar is very high, Netherlands is high, and Ecuador is low. So that works out to 2.3 goals per player, which again is kind of low compared to other teams. And I do have a graphic here, just a kind of an interesting one. So, this is for a bit later when we look at the forwards. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the position. So on defense, what's there to look for? Well, the back line is fairly stable, but the starting goalkeeper is a bit of a question mark. Who is going to be their starting goalkeeper? They have well, I won't go through the names again, but when we go through the team, you'll see that there's no defined starting goalkeeper. In the midfield, I guess the consideration is who are going to be the wide midfielders. So they seem to be a bit undecided right now. And in fact, the right defender is usually playing as a right midfield, or sorry, the right winger. You know, it's kind of unsettled on the right, just let me put it that way. In the attack, we have, again, kind of undecided. I would say their main attacker is Ener Valencia, because he'll definitely be there. And Gonzalo Plata and Michael Estrada are usually there, but again, it's not nailed down. For example, in their 3 recent friendlies, they've used 3 different centre forwards. So a little kind of uncertain who's going to end up in that position. We thought it would be Michael Estrada for the Copa America in 2021, and we were taken by surprise there. So let's look at some of the new players. Now, I could give a long list of players who got their start in 2021, but that would be kind of naming half the players on the team. So I'm going to limit this to players who have joined the team since 2021, or at least who didn't play in the 2021 Copa America. So new players. Sorry, I kind of lost my spot on the YouTube graphics here. Okay, new players. New to the team are Diego Almeida, so kind of an interesting player with Barcelona's B team in Spain, and he's just 18 years old. But probably an up-and-comer. Probably this cup comes a bit too soon for him. Right defender Byron Castillo has kind of worked his way into the team as a likely candidate. And defensive midfielder Jose Cifuentes has increasingly been playing as the right midfielder, but only has 4 of their last 17 games has he been a starter in that position. But anyway, also Michael Sarsalan has just been starting games recently. Jeremy Sarmiento, it looks like he's making a bid for the left wing position, or that might be the kind of left forward position, and we consider him a likely candidate. Cifuentes and Carcelin, who I just mentioned, we only consider possible candidates, and that's true of all the others I'm about to mention. So also listed as a left winger, Alexander Alvarado is a new player to the squad. João Rojas. And then in the forward line, they just tried out Jorka Friasco. So a possible bid at forward, who plays for Newell's Old Boys in Argentina, and another solid club affiliation with Anderlecht in Belgium is Nilson Agulo. But those, he along with Diego Almeida and possibly some of the others, this cup may come too soon for them because they haven't worked their way into the squad enough to really make a bid. But they still have a few games in September and probably pre-tournament friendlies where there always seem to be a couple of new players brought to the squad, to the final squad, which takes everyone by surprise. So it may be some of these guys who will do that. In terms of injuries, we have Ayrton Preciado. So he's playing mostly on the right side, sometimes in a more defensive role. He's listed as an attacking midfielder. And we had him as a possible candidate, but he has a fractured tibia, so may not make it back for the cup. And then notable absences, we have Antonio Valencia, a real veteran with the team since 2006, but has been off since 2019. And we have central defender Arturo Mina. However, that hole that he left seems to have been fairly well filled by Torres and Hincapie. So there we have it. All right. Well, we're going to go through the squad now and look at who we think are starters. So manager Alfaro Gustavo will be managing them through this World Cup. And goalkeepers, we think really undecided between Alexander Dominguez and Hernan Galindez there. And there are several other candidates, and we were taken by surprise in the Gold Cup when Pedro Ortiz, who we have only as a possible candidate here, was the starter in the cup. That's probably Ortiz texting me to tell me that I should put him as a likely candidate. But I'm just looking at the data here. Central defenders is pretty solid with Piero Hincapie and Felix Torres as definite to make the squad and almost definite to be starters there. But they have several players who they're likely bring but will be substitutes. So a lot of central defenders to choose from there. Left back Pervis Estupinan seems to have nailed down that position. So we have him as the starter, and Diego Palacios probably reaching the cup but as a substitute. One moment, please. Okay, and as the right back, that's less nailed down. We have basically two candidates. One is Byron Castillo, who's likely to make the cup, but we're not sure if he's going to be starter. The other candidate is right winger I'll just scroll up a bit here. Right winger Angelo Preciado, who might actually start as the right back. But we can't say definitely that either of them will be a starter, but it's probably between those two. In the defensive midfield, in the center of midfield, Moises Caicedo and Carlos Gruezo seem as definite starters. And on the right, it'll probably be either Alan Franco or Jose Cifuentes. It'll probably be one of those two on the right. So defensive midfielders play the central midfield role. So there's no one kind of designated as a central midfielder who looks like a starter to us. As a right midfielder, Angel Mena seems definitely to be a starter, but not as a right midfielder, but as a right winger or an attacking winger or a right forward, or even in a central forward role. But we think he will be a starter, and that's the only candidate among the wingers that we consider a definite starter. Jeremy Sarmiento, likely to make the squad, but doesn't have a strong argument to be a starter. Even Angelo Preciado has a stronger argument as a starter, but we're not confident enough to say that he would be. Moving on to forwards, none of the attacking midfielders seem like starters or even likely to reach the cup, even though there are a few candidates there. Rather, they will rely on their forwards. So Michael Estrada, Gonzalo Plata, and Enner Valencia, we consider them all definite candidates to make the cup and all likely starters for the cup. Although they do have a few young candidates coming in who may make an impression before the cup begins. And that is all we can say about the predicted starters, other than the fact that I put the label in the wrong place. Sorry, they're YouTube watchers. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. And I'll just go back up to the top for the sign out here. And keep an eye on our website at soccerphiles.captivate.fm, and you can find that address in the show notes along with other ways to find us, and a link to the Gold Cup podcast that we did for Ecuador. So keep in mind, we'll be doing an update as new information comes out. That will probably be in early to mid-November when the teams will publish their squad lists. And thanks very much for listening. Again, check the show notes for links to our website and previous podcasts. Bye-bye.